Well, the first thing that we did when I came down here was we put the missiles together. The missile came without the large fins or the small fins in the front, and it came without warheads and without fuel. The booster was on a trailer on the road out here, and then they used a cherry picker to pick the missile up and made it with the booster. When the missile is fired, there's all sorts of things that happen. When the missile is fired, it takes off at 25 Gs. You'll see a little dinky hole right in front of what we call the flower pot between the missile and the booster. That hole is where you put in UDMH. UDMH, undimetrical hydrazine, is a fluid that when it mixes with red fumed nitric acid makes one hell of a fire. The hydrazine was a starting fluid for the sustainer motor, and then the rest of it is JP5 kerosene. There are two little holes about a foot up from the back of the fin. There was a pin that came up there, and that pin had a hole in it. Now there was a rod that ran from the booster up through the hole in that pin. When the missile was fired, after 2.5 seconds, the booster fell away. It pulled that pin out. That's what armed the missile. See, the booster burns all of 2.5 seconds, it then dropped off. The first thing that happened after it dropped off, the rear fins, all they are for is when the missile is fired, the first command the missile gets is to turn the missile towards the target, and that's what those fins are for. That's the first command it gets. And the purpose of that, of course, is that means that the steering and so on is minor as it already flows over towards the target. As you go on forward on the missile, between the U and the S, there is a port there. That is where the arming mechanism is. Right in front of that, you have 4 very small fins. Those are antennas that the signal for the guidance system comes through. In front of that, you have the steering fin. Now, the missile never hit a target. It always was exploded a millisecond or two before it got to the target. So the 3 warheads were exploded, and you had a cloud of debris that hit the target, not the missile itself.
What's the min-max range?
28 to 35 miles. Now, max altitude 70,000, but normally 60,000. Of course, it's only good against things like the bear was and so on. If you get into the jet age, it becomes useless because it takes a few minutes to get this thing off the ground. This thing became useless within 5 years from the time it became active, although they stayed active for a few more years.
How many launch pads were there and how many missiles?
Launch pads, there would be 3, 1 for each pit. And what they do, they run them up on an elevator, and then if you're running up more missiles, you manually slide them along the rails. Okay, that's about all I've told you more than I know.